is Scott Baier, and I'm the CEO of Community Pregnancy Clinics. I have the tremendous honor and pleasure to work for an organization that's doing tremendous good in the state of Florida. You've already heard Catherine and Pam, and I can tell you the employees at CPCI are just as passionate and loving as you heard those two share their perspectives. As a male, sometimes people wonder, like, how'd you get involved in the pro-life movement? And I was thinking back to when I first was in front of a Planned Parenthood, and I saw, praying in front of a Planned Parenthood, I saw these women leaving, and I asked someone next to me, what's their story? And they would say they just had an abortion. And I saw the look of emptiness and pain in their eyes. And then when I saw that look again was when I was in the Army. I spent 5 months in a place called Bosnia-Herzegovina after the war there, back in 1996. And when I saw the pain and devastation after the war, it was the same look. The look of healing that's needed, the look of pain and trauma. That's when I became pro-life. When I said, you know what, we have to do something as a culture, as a nation, as a world, to make it not only illegal, right, but also unthinkable that a baby in the womb is not protected. We have to protect, right? So I had this sense of, let's do something. And then most recently, I found myself at CPCI being offered the job to lead this organization that's not just sitting back waiting for women to come to us in our clinics around the state of Florida, but like other clinics around the country, going out to them. So you heard about our mobile units going to the women in some of those areas that are not well served. Our university model, that's YOU university model, right, where we know our opposition. I don't call them the enemy. I call them the opposition, where they know their market is 18 or 15, 18 to 24-year-old women. And then, of course, the third way, as Pam mentioned and Catherine as well, digital marketing. They're on their phones, so we have to be proactive. And I think as I speak again about the opposition, for them, over-sexualization is their sales funnel, right? So coming from a marketing standpoint, they over-sexualize our culture in the schools as much as they can. And then abortion becomes their product, right? Because they know the means they're offering to handle the pregnancies are not going to work. We know contraception fails 50% of the time. And when they do fail, then they offer the product of abortion. So if you look at that sales funnel and the product, we see that the real prospect are the sons and daughters that we're raising. I have 5 kids of my own, and I have 1 daughter, and I will love her to the day she dies, and I will protect her for everything. But I want to treat every woman out there who's vulnerable just like my daughter. And we have a movement, a pro-life movement in the nation that's active. For every abortion mill, there's 3 pro-life pregnancy centers. And that's a beautiful thing. So the enemy is not the abortion doctors. The enemy is not the women, of course, or the men, because we're going to bring compassion and care to them. The enemy is not even the industry of abortion. Those are all victims. Those are victims of a culture that says it's okay to destroy innocent human life. John Paul II, many years ago said the culture of death. He really focused and honed in on what that culture is and what it looks like. You can just look at your evening news tonight and see the culture of death. So the enemy is none of those things. The enemy of the culture, as part of the culture of death, is apathy, doing nothing, right? That's something we can't do. Edmund Burke said, all that evil needs to triumph is for good men and women to do nothing. So apathy is not an option. Neutrality and passivity only serves the opposition. And another great quote is Dietrich Bonhoeffer, right? The Protestant pastor who stood up to the Nazi regime. And there's lots of parallels with the pro-life initiatives in the period of the Holocaust. And so Dietrich Bonhoeffer said before he died, silence in the face of evil is evil itself. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to act is to act. Not to speak is to speak. So one of my themes when I'm speaking to people, I want to encourage them to do something. right? To do nothing is not an option. So unfortunately, we know that when women, who do they turn to when they when they find themselves in a crisis pregnancy? Often their parents are not ones they're going to tell. Their partner maybe is not being supportive, right? They're going to their phones, they're looking for answers. They're also, I'll say this, they're not going to their pastors often. And if you look at the statistics, only 3% of Christian churches in this nation are active in the pro-life movement. That's a national tragedy, and I think we need to do something about it. So we encourage at CPCI, we work with a lot of organizations, from churches to youth groups to service organizations. We collaborate. Together we are strong as a movement. And again, the opposition has the marketing, they have government funding, they have billions of dollars, of taxpayer dollars, government funded, government protected, government sanctioned. So they have the umbrella, and they gain the trust of women in the schools as early as kindergarten, we know. That's why the education world is so important. And so here we are trying to be proactive, right, with limited resources. Abortion is income. It makes them a lot of money. Compassion is costly. Compassion is costly. So no one organization or group can do it on their own. We've got to work together. And as we collaborate, we become strong. You know, and when I was in Germany, I thought back to, again, that idea of apathy. And there was a woman there who was teaching us how to speak German to soldiers. And she shared her story that she was a 20-something-year-old during the period of the Holocaust. And she was in a town where there were trains coming in with Jewish people. And the trains would come in full, and they would leave empty. And we asked her, what did you do? Like, what did your family do? How did you deal with that reality? Or first it was, did you know? And I'll never forget the look in her eye. She looked with a tear and said to us, yes, we knew. But what could we do? What could we do? And so without judgment, we said to her, we can do something now about the new Holocaust, the Holocaust of abortion, the greatest human rights abuse in our nation's history, if not the world's history. People, sometimes they're apathetic because they just don't know the numbers. And we know in America, the numbers right now are about 3,200 to 3,300 abortions per day. That's a 9/11 every day. Again, government sanctioned, government promoted, government funded. Worldwide, and this is not including, as you heard Pam talk about chemical abortion, not including chemical abortion, there's up to 200,000 abortions per day worldwide. That's from a recent Lancet article. That's their numbers. That's staggering numbers. And then we know Stalin said something about statistics. He said 1 million deaths is a statistic. 1 death is a tragedy. So I encourage you to get involved, right? Wherever you're at in the nation or around the world, there's people around you that are working to help women in need, to help men in need, to help grow families, from maternity homes to pregnancy clinics like ours. If you're in the state of Florida, I encourage you to come by one of our clinics. If you're from Naples to Gainesville, come by one of our clinics. And if you're not in Florida, I guarantee you around your area, there are resources available, and they need your support of time, talent, and treasure. We can't do it on our own. Now, the average woman doesn't know what's available to her, so maybe your role is to be an educator, to share the resources. At CPCI, when a woman comes to us, we'll walk with her through that crisis pregnancy. We'll give her 3 years of material assistance, including counseling, including just being there with phone calls and support and diapers. We joke and we say that our boxes of diapers, it's box to bottom within 2 weeks. So maybe you do a diaper drive. But women don't know what's available to them, and so they have the tunnel vision, thinking they have no other options, and they think they have to choose abortion. When they see what's available in their own community with the hands and heart and voice of Christ, who's reaching out saying, here we are, we're here for you, often that woman chooses life. So isolation and kind of separate entities working not together is not going to solve this crisis. You know, in the political side, they're going to do what they do. Politicians maybe make it better, maybe make it worse. Meantime, we're going to try to end abortion one life at a time. one mother at a time, one father at a time. And as you heard from Catherine and Pam, let's be proactive. Abortion's a symptom. Let's go to the root cause. Let's help them make better choices. Let's help them out of the cycle of dependency and dysfunction that's caused them in many ways to be where they're at. But when those women don't know what's available to them, they will turn to who they think they can trust, and that's the abortion industry. And so the statistic that I often share also is that 4 out of 10 women who become pregnant this month were in church this month. And back to that tragedy of only 3% of churches being active, it's understandable, because are you going to go to the very people who you think you are now going to be judged by? Maybe in one case in my own story of a woman I know, her father was a pastor. And when she became pregnant, she was scared that if she told her father, he would lose his job as pastor. The church would be ruined. So she didn't turn to her father. She didn't turn to the church. She didn't turn to the very ones that were there to help her. And so this is something we can encourage and also try to alleviate by just knowledge. Let's show the resources that are out there. There's many people like us, many organizations around the country. Again, 3,300 pro-life clinics, just pregnancy clinics. 3 to 1, we outnumber them. But we have to come together and we have to work together. And so as I kind of wrap up my thoughts here and I think about as a male who's entering into this world, I want to speak to you men. Because oftentimes we know 1 out of 4 people in America have a direct relationship with abortion. 1 in 4. And it's another 75 or 80% of people have an indirect relationship. But I'm going to speak to the ones that are the 1 in 4. Many of you are carrying the burden of having chosen abortion. And I'm here to tell you that God is here to heal, to forgive, to be there as a welcoming back to the Father. I work on a national task force called the Support After Abortion, which is a wonderful group, supportafterAbortion.com. And I'm on the National Task Force for Men. And we have regular meetings on Zoom and in person, but often in Zoom for men who have been wounded by abortion. Women have tremendous trauma, don't get me wrong. But the forgotten fathers, I think, are often left out. And those men are wondering, they have no one to tell. Because who do you tell, about your abortion? I'm a man, I can move on, that's behind me. And there's nothing further from the truth, that we're all wounded in some way. And these men have a particular wound. In one case, the very first session of the Support After Abortion for Men webinar and Zoom call that we had, the man was 60 years old. 30 years ago he had his abortion. He hadn't told anybody, not even his current wife. He was hitting the mute button so that he could speak. And he didn't know the format or didn't know the ground rules, and he went into his story, and we let him go. In the telling of his story, he was healing. He was healing just by sharing it, getting off his chest the burden of what had happened 30 years ago. So men, you're out there, and if you have the burden of a past abortion, turn to someone you love. Turn to supportafterabortion.com to start if there's no other resource in your area. There's healing that's available. God can heal, and He will heal. Men, we need you. Often a woman says that she chooses abortion because the male said, it's your choice. She was waiting for the man to step up, just like in the Garden of Eden. Yeah, Eve took the apple and ate from it, but where was Adam? If Adam had just said, Eve, don't do it, maybe we would have a whole different world. So men, don't forget your voice. You're the forgotten father, but we are here to remember you, that you have a voice. And if you find yourself in the future in a situation where you're not quite sure what to do, oh, it's her choice, it's not my role. No, it is your role. You were part of the process to bring this child into the world, and you are that child's father. So show support. There's opportunities and resources out there that you don't know about now, but they're available, and you can make that choice for life, right? So I want to thank you for this time. I encourage you, again, if you have time, talent, and treasure, and you all have that, look around your local community. Search for the groups that are helping women, helping men, helping families. Be part of the solution Don't fall into apathy or even despair of what can we do. Be the one who says, I can do this, and have a solution. And so here in Florida, if you have need for our services, you can go to communitypregnancyclinics.com. And if you have time, talent, and treasure to share, or you just want to come by and see one of our clinics, again, from Naples to Gainesville, you can go to supportcpci.com. Thank you, and God bless you.